Hey everyone, my name is Chantal. I'm a transgender woman from Switzerland, and after I told you my story about how I realized that I was trans, I want to talk about what the next step was for me, which was my coming out, my outing to my parents. Oh, and by the way, I went shopping yesterday. I might do a whole video on that. So I was in Miami Beach in my language stay, which you may know from my previous video. And as I was there, as you know, I had my inner coming out. And I already teased you in that video before. I texted my brother first, my little bit younger brother. He was actually the first one to know that I was transgender. So he was the first one who actually knew. But I wasn't really afraid of telling him because he's almost the same age as me. He's well aware of what being transgender means, or I thought he already was at that point, and he really was. So I was actually really careful in telling him. So I basically just wrote him a WhatsApp message and explained him some things around it, but not too much because, as said, I think, or I thought, he knows what that involves, and that was the case actually. So yeah, what his answer was basically just, well, it's a little bit surprising, but actually it's pretty comprehensible. So yeah, please give me some time to get used to it and to think about it, and sure, we can talk about it, because that was also something. I asked him if we can have a phone call because he was here in Switzerland and I was in America, in Miami Beach at that point. So yeah, a few days later we had a phone call, I think. I can't even remember, to be honest. Or maybe we exchanged voice messages. I don't know. I really don't remember anymore, to be honest. Yeah, but luckily for him that wasn't really a problem, or yeah, he got used to it pretty fast. He also, or I also advised him to maybe talk with his friends a little bit about it. Maybe they can help him as well, and I think that's what he did actually. Then he also recommended me a friend of him who identifies as non-binary. We didn't ever text each other or something like that, but it actually made me feel really comfortable to know that that my brother has some queer friends actually, because I didn't know before that. But yeah, he just told me that moment, and I felt quite relieved at this point, because I just knew okay, it's fine, it's really fine. This was actually a really strong basis for me to sort of plan my coming out to my parents, which took place, I think, 2 or 3 weeks later after I came out to my brother. I don't even know why I spent so much time waiting for outing myself to my parents. I don't know anymore, to be honest, but I think I really wanted to have all the facts together and to have a very good explanation for everything, for all the questions they might have. And spoiler, by the way, they didn't have a lot of questions, which I was prepared for. But I think that was the time I spent between my inner coming out and my actually coming out, me actually coming out to my parents. I think that was the time I spent in between, just doing research about everything. I also had some additional talks with the consultation center here in Switzerland, which I mentioned in my previous video, where I talked about how I knew I was trans. So yeah, and after all, I really felt comfortable to come out to my parents, and it wasn't really planned, to be honest. I didn't wait for a specific date to come out. I don't even remember which date exactly it was. I think it was by the end of June, like June 29th or June 30th, or even... No, it was July. It was July, it wasn't even June. Yeah, because I wanted to wait until after Pride Month, so that it's not yeah, it's Pride Month, everybody comes out and everything. So no, I just wanted to wait until Pride Month was over. So I think I waited until the end of July, since I came out. Yes, okay. Yeah, I think it was July 30th or something around that. Yeah, so what did I do? How did I come out to my parents? Basically, the same way as I came out to my brother, I also texted my mother on WhatsApp, because I think it was the best way for me to explain everything, because I don't think if we had a phone call that I would have been able to tell them just at that moment. I think that would have been very emotional for me, maybe even for them, I don't know. Yeah, so I decided to write quite a long text message to my mother. I also attached a little fact sheet provided by the Transgender Network Switzerland, which is like an advisor for parents who have trans kids. So there's everything explained like in parent terms, what a transgender or what being transgender is all about. And what was very important for me and what was also explained in the paper was that my parents did nothing wrong. Like they didn't fail on me, and that's the reason why I'm trans now. Or for example, I didn't want them to have bad feelings about it. I really told them also in my message that it feels really good and that I think I can finally become myself and become human, sort of become alive finally. Yeah, so everything I wrote was quite in a positive way, I think, and yeah, I really wanted them to sort of trust me also, I guess, but I never had the impression I had to explain or to justify myself or anything. Yeah, so I wrote that message and I attached that paper as mentioned before. And usually my mother responds when I text her on WhatsApp, usually 3 to 4 times a day. So, yeah, but when I sent this message, it took almost 24 hours until I got a response. And I only texted my mother, by the way, because my dad has no WhatsApp, so that was the only way of communication at that point. But of course, I wrote her that she, of course, should also discuss that with my dad as well, and I think they did, and I think that's also the reason why I got a response almost 24 hours later, which is fine, by the way, because I give them time, and I think it's not easy, or it wasn't easy at all for them, I guess, but we never really talked about it in the end, how it really was for them. Yeah, so I got a response, and it was basically, so it was written from the perspective of my mother, and my mother, she basically told me, yeah, it's okay, let's talk about it, it's fine. So that was basically everything she wrote me back at that point, and that was also quite relieving. The same, like almost the same as when I came out to my brother. So yeah, I think 2 days after I wrote that message, we had a phone call together, which lasted for about 1 hour, I think. Most of the time I talked to my mother and I explained a lot of things I wrote her, or I basically repeated lots of things I already wrote her in my message before. And quite quick already came the question like, but do you want to change everything? Do you want to get bottom surgery and things like that? So my parents, both of them actually asked me that question. Both were thinking like, oh, now I'm doing directly everything I need to do now instantly. And I said like, no, it's fine for now. Please give me time to decide what I really need and what I really want to do. Because at that point, the only thing I wanted to change like instantly was my style and everything, and just the just be seen as female. That was my main goal at that point. I didn't think about getting HRT or getting bottom surgery or getting any other surgery or whatever. That was no point of thinking at that point for me, although I was already well aware that such treatments exist and may be applicable for me, but I didn't really want to get them right after I came out. Or yeah, so that was quite weird. I will definitely remember that conversation for the rest of my life, I think. Yeah, and I also told my mother back then, because of course I had very short hair by then. I told her like, yeah, lots of other trans women, they just wear wigs, and I will do that too when I come back to Switzerland. And my mother was like, no, you can't do that, please. And I'm actually quite glad she told me that like that way, because I couldn't resist buying some wigs after I came back to Switzerland, but they looked so weird and awful, to be honest. I'm still owning them. I haven't given them away or put them away anywhere, but I haven't ever worn them in public, and I definitely wouldn't. Yeah, well, in the end I wasted some money on that, but I'm really glad I let my hair grow naturally and never cheated with fake hair or anything. Yeah, so that was a good decision. Thanks, Mom. Yeah, and I also talked for some minutes to my dad during that phone call, and my dad wasn't really interested in everything, which is, for me, to be honest, okay, but sometimes also quite hard, to be honest. Because I think on the one hand, both my parents told me that they were fine with it and everything will be as before, and that's true, yes. They never rejected me or anything, but on the other hand, they are also still until today not very interested in who I really am or what I really want to do or what I really want to become. So it's just the same as before, as they promised me at that point, and it's kind of disappointing because we never really talked in our family about personal stuff or things like that. I mean, being transgender, thinking about getting surgeries or just thinking about existing might be some very personal thoughts, and I think your family is or should be, or at least the parents should be, your the first group of people, whatever you want to call it, to talk about such things, but we never did, and there was no real interest into what I want to become and what I want to get. We never talked about that anymore after that phone call. I of course told them that I want to start therapy and things just to make sure that everything is fine, and that's what I did when I came back to Switzerland after my language stay. At the second week I was back in Switzerland, I had my first therapy session, and that was the last time we really talked about me being transgender. So I just told them, yeah, today I have therapy because you know why, and the reaction was basically just, okay, no, yeah. And that was actually the last time we talked about everything. So it's the same as before. My parents aren't interested in me, and I also don't tell them anything like what I'm doing, about my HRT and things I'm doing now, or I started not too long ago, by the way. I never told them anything about what's going on, about what I'm doing right now. I'm telling you right here on the internet basically more than I'm telling my parents, because it's sad, there is this feeling of not having any interest in me about being transgender or whatever. it's just not important to them. And yeah, as said, on the one hand, it's okay because I think you could have other parents who might reject or exclude you from the family or whatever. I'm really glad that didn't happen in my case, but I also didn't expect that. Yeah, but on the other hand, sometimes it's quite sad because I mean, I'm still their kid, and that's also what they both told me when I came out to them. You will be our kid forever. It doesn't matter what happens. We can't change that you are our daughter at that point. So that's what both of them told me back then. But yeah, it really doesn't matter to them what I am and who I am today, as it seems. And yeah, it's not easy all the time, but I think like, okay, it is what it is, and it's time to go my own way. And yeah, because I mean, I'm old enough, to be honest, to decide to make my own decisions. So yeah. So after some time, after I kind of realized that there isn't too much interest in everything from my parents, as said before, I basically stopped updating them about my transition. And to be honest, I don't know if they are aware that I'm taking HRT, or I've been taking HRT for 8 months now. I really don't know if they know. I just don't know, because I've never told them anything about it. Yeah, but to be honest, if they don't care, I don't care as well, and I'm fine with that. Okay, but actually, we are still in that phone call. So, as said before, the phone call lasted for about 1 hour, and I think 3/4 of that hour I talked to my mom, and I talked for some minutes to my dad. And as said before, he didn't really care, but he just advised me to think really, really good about everything before making a final decision. Like, for example, he also instantly thought about getting bottom surgery, of course, and he always told me, be aware that you're living in a healthy body right now, and you want to change things from your body, which is really healthy at the moment. Just be aware that you're really gifted, that you have no injuries or anything, and that your body is really fine how it is at the moment. And he was right about that, of course. And now we have 2.5 years later, and I'm taking HRT, and I'm still fine. I'm still fine, to be honest. And I also, I would say I'm feeling even better than before. And it probably has to do with me exercising a lot and just doing sports, which I didn't do back then. But also on that point, I'm really glad my dad told me that during the phone call, because he really made me think or overthink a lot of things just once more before I really decided, yes, it's the best thing I can do at the moment, or yes, I'm 100% sure I want to start HRT. Because yeah, thinking about HRT or just overthinking that again and again is also what made me waiting for so long until I got HRT. Because as said, my coming out has been taking place 2.5 years ago, and I've been taking HRT for 8 months now. So there's almost a 2-year gap in between since between coming out and since I started HRT. Yeah, but I don't regret it. I don't regret that I started HRT a little later. I'm actually grateful for that, and I think that's one of the positive things my dad gave me on my way in my transition, and it's not wrong. It was definitely a good thing. Hey everyone, this is me editing right here, and I want to make 2 very important additions right here, alright? Number 1 is for my mother. During the phone call, my mother told me that I'm actually not the only transgender person in my village, in that community where I'm living. For those who don't know, I'm living in a small farmer's village, very conservative, by the way. Only about 1,000 people live here. And my mother told me that somebody in our neighborhood is actually a trans man. And I didn't know that before, because I actually knew that person quite well, but I didn't have much to do with the person. But she just told me like, oh yeah, by the way, you're not the only one. And I was just like, oh, wow, why didn't you tell me before? Like, that would have been totally okay. And yeah, that was something that gave me a lot of safety, or a feeling of safety, when I came back to Switzerland and back to the village here, which in which I'm still living. Yeah, I just to know that I'm not the only one, and there are more transgender people. And yeah, by the way, today I connected a little bit more with the person. The person actually moved away from the village. They are not living here anymore. Yeah, but we are well connected until this day. And yeah, it gave me a feeling of safety when I came back to Switzerland. And talking about safety is also the second point I want to add here. That's a point which applies to my dad, because my dad, when we talked to each other in the phone call, my dad actually made me anxious. My dad really made me anxious about being transgender in Switzerland, and also being transgender here in this village, because I wouldn't call my dad a fan of the patriarchy, but it sort of gave me that vibe when he talked to me on the phone while I came out to them. Because he told me like, yeah, but you know what the standing of women is in our village and in our society, and be aware that you may experience sexual assault and things like that. And yeah, that I was quite aware that these are things which may be subject to the village we're living in, and also subject to our local community, local society here. But I wasn't that sure that I will experience such things just because I'm transgender or whatever, because I felt really lots of self-confidence at that point. Yeah, but as my dad told me directly in that way, it really made me feel anxious, to be honest. And oftentimes I felt really insecure when I went out in a different style, or when I tried some new outfits and stuff. I was really afraid and anxious when I just went to the bus station, for example, and that feeling lasted for about 1.5 or even 2 years after I came out. Luckily I got over it by now, because I know I'm being perceived as women all the time. Also, like, the whole community knows about me being transgender now, and the people here are very, very, very supportive. They are way more supportive than I thought back then. Also, I thought like everybody is transphobic here in this community, just because my dad told me like that, or yeah, he brought a point to me like that I have to be anxious all the time about getting transphobic comments or whatever. And yeah, basically all just because I'm existing. So that was quite weird, because I never experienced any like transphobic comments or weird situations while walking through my village, while walking to the bus station or anything. It was fine all the time. There were no problems at all at any point. And yeah, I'm glad today everything is fine, and I will definitely make another or a dedicated video on that, like how I got over these anxieties. And yeah, so that's how I came out to my parents, and also a little bit how our family situation is today, and how it impacted our family life. It didn't. It really didn't. Nothing changed. Yeah, by the way, also because I talked a lot about my parents not really caring much about me or my transition. Just for your information, that also wasn't the case before. So my parents always like really never cared too much about me, about my brother neither, and like that was always the case. So it's not just because I'm trans or whatever, it was the same before. That's also why I mentioned several times now that really nothing changed. Yeah, that was also the case when I was their son, for example. So yeah, that's I just wanted to mention that so that you don't think that my parents are transphobic or whatever, because they are not. They are definitely not. Yeah, and after that coming out to my parents, I had almost 4 more weeks in Miami, in my language stay. From these 4 weeks, I went 1 week to New York with some of my friends there, and yeah, after that, I went back to Switzerland, and which is what is something that is really cute, is this right here. That's the Swiss flag, of course, and the text below, which was written by my mother. My dad told me. Yeah, it says "Welcome back, CH," and CH. To be honest, I wasn't sure at that point if CH stands for Confederatio Helvetica, which is the Latin name for Switzerland, or which is also the reason why our Swiss top-level domain is .ch. I wasn't sure if that was just welcome back like in Switzerland, or if that CH was the meaning of me, like Chantal. So yeah, basically they welcomed me as Chantal when I was back in Switzerland. So I wasn't sure at the beginning, and until today I never asked my mother actually if that really stood for Chantal or if it was just welcome back in Switzerland. But as far or as good as I know my mother, because actually I think me and my mother, we got a little bit closer since I came out, because before, like, I was quite distant to my mother and also to my dad as well, in general to my parents, because we were all like very mature for a long time and lived our own life, so that wasn't really a problem. But yeah, I think me and my mother, we really connected a little bit more since I came out, and yeah, today I think I know my mother a little bit better, and yeah, by the facts from today, I would say it would probably have meant Chantal, this CH, so it was just the abbreviation for my first name or something like that, and not for Confederatio Helvetica. Yeah, so that's how I came out to my parents and to my brother, of course, but that's just a little side story how I came out to my brother. Yeah, and actually there are much more stories to tell, like how I came out to my grandma. That's actually a really sad story how I came out to my grandma, because it was weird, but it was fine. It was very okay in the end. But I will tell you that another time. And also, of course, there's much more things to say, like how I came out to my peers in my university, how I came out to my working colleagues at my employer, and yeah, this is stuff for other videos. And yeah, if you don't want to miss them, please subscribe to my channel, and thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please leave a like, and see you next time. Bye.